Toot, toot, toot. Good. I'm going to start presenting. Yeah. Minimize you people for me for the recording. All right, everybody. This week, exciting week. October surprises abound. Let's see here. There we go. Ooh, I'm big. Yeah, so this week the theme is legal stuff, negotiations, partnerships. It's all those things that are not scientific. They're not engineering. They're not competing in the marketplace. They're relationships and things like that. But first, reminding myself to record already on it as usual. And let's see. Boop. This is the schedule. Once again, this week I'm going to do the specialist breakout thing and not so much the pod. So I sent an email to the mentors and everybody to that regard, but we've got just a couple this time. We've got Raul, who's going to have one about legal stuff. So jump into that one. He's a lawyer, so you can trust him. And the other one, partnerships. Brian Bogensberger. He's good at that stuff. I highly recommend that one as well. And the other thing is negotiations. I don't really have a breakout room for negotiations. So they're really just going to be those two. So you can change your names to have the track. You could say legal or partnerships, or you could say Brian or Raul. And then I'll put you in there if you can't figure out how to join a breakout room on your own, which is theoretically possible if you upgraded your Zoom client, or maybe even if you didn't, you have to click on it, click on the name, say join, something like that. And you can always pop back out to the main room and pop into another one now. It's like a conference where you can walk around, reminding about Tuesday Lunch Club, reminding about Wednesday afternoon mentor office hours at hmcinq.com/00. And a reminder to launch if you haven't launched. A reminder to also pitch. So I got a fair amount of slides, and I think like 30 or so. So it's plenty. I don't really need more, but I wanted to say that, like, just because you don't think maybe you're going to raise money or you're not sure what the status is of things, I still encourage everyone to pitch for demo day, because you could pitch and just like, here's my idea. I'm looking for people to talk about it. I'm looking for people to work with me on it. I'm looking for people to try it out as customers, beta testers, or I'm looking for people to invest, or all four, or whatever. It's also just good to really hone your own thinking, and like, why is this exciting, and how do I get other people excited about it? And also what I'm going to do is, I think we're going to do, it's the 1 minute pitches. So it's easy and it's short, and they're going to be pre-recorded. So this week, I need people to send me remember, so we're only 3 weeks away from demo day, and you can, that's right, send me your 1 minute video pitch by next Wednesday, Josh at HMCINQ.com, a link to it, or wherever you want to put it, YouTube or some Dropbox or Google Docs. Don't attach it to the email, probably, because it's a big file and I'm just going to upload it to YouTube or something. And in general, this is like an insight that I just had on office hours talking to people, is in general, like when someone's trying to decide to invest, and not just money, like their time, do they want to join you? Do they think it's exciting? They pretty much, if you're going to make an investment, right, you want to know what's the price, or what it is today, and what's the potential value in the future, and what's the sort of distribution of likelihood of that value or other values. Whether you're trying to buy like a house for an investment or stocks for an investment, right? You're thinking about, how am I going to make money, and how likely and how risky. And so that's what you're trying to get across when you're pitching your company, right? Is like the potential, hopefully billions and billions of dollars, the price today, which is not just the price to invest at, but the state of things today. And then kind of trying to portray in the best possible light how likely it is that you're going to achieve some great future valuation. So that's really the component of your pitch to think about. And it comes across, you see in those YC slides, right? It's just like $50 billion market cap, potentially, total addressable market. We're a great team. That's helping people think that you're going to achieve it. And then like, so far we have this much traction, and that's where you are today. So it's pretty straightforward. You can go to this URL still to see also 1-minute example pitches from the last YC demo day. Yeah, sure. And then also, last chance, I will give you the goodies. If you can still catch up. If you didn't send your slide, just send your slide and your 1-minute pitch to me by Wednesday. All right. Let's get into the talk. Legal. This one's easy. This is my advice right now in your startup stage. Don't worry about it. If you're worried about it, you could talk to Raul. He'll probably have different advice, but my advice on legal is don't get overly concerned, bogging yourself down. It's like, it's a problem for later, mostly. You're thinking about, well, I got to get my patents in order and all this, and you haven't, talked to a customer yet. You haven't got anyone lined up. Like, you're really putting the cart in front of the horse. And horses do better pulling than pushing. So that's it for legal, but I'll let Raul get this. So negotiations are really just an example of a marketplace, a very illiquid marketplace. It's price discovery in an illiquid market is what I would say negotiations are in general. A nice market like this, right? There's lots of different widgets out there, lots of people competing for it. You see the prices, you can go to this other supplier if you don't like it. There's lots of customers out there offering to buy your widgets. You see that they don't like it when your price is too high, you lower the price, you kind of do that. Negotiation is like, there's 3 widgets and there's 2 buyers, or there's 1 widget and there's 1 buyer, and it starts to get weird. So my advice to this is the same as my advice for getting rich. It's leverage and compounding. I mean, leverage and starting high. So leverage, I'll get into first. That in a negotiation, you're really just trying to discover the price. People think that like if you're a good negotiator, that like you can just sort of get anything, but there still is, even in illiquid markets, a market price. You're just trying to discover it and not get too far off. So if you're like I guess you could be a terrible negotiator and sell something for way too cheap or buy something for way too much. But in general, you can't just like bluff your way, right? Oh yeah, this is the illiquid market slide you might remember from, I think, week 1. But you can't really bluff your way into, I mean, there are examples where it does happen. You're such an amazing negotiator that you just like bold-faced, like get them to way overpay or get this amazing deal or something by your poker skills. But reality, it's about leverage and just discovering the market price is the point of the negotiation. And you want a good market price because you have leverage. So there's fewer of you than there are of them, right? You want to be the only one selling or buying whatever it is in this negotiation, and you want multiple options for you on the other side of the table. And then there's no need to bluff because you're just, the truth is you can walk away and they can't. And that's the key to negotiations. I'll give example. Some of you might know that I'm working on an aerial gondola for Santa Monica, and we call it SMART. And we started off talking to just Santa Monica about putting in a gondola. And it was sort of a weird negotiation, right? Because like no one else is really offering, but I guess other people could. And there's just Santa Monica. They kind of have a monopoly on the Santa Monica. Yeah, I used to call it SMUG, but my PR and consultants didn't like that name as much. So we got with SMART instead of SMUG. Santa Monica Urban Gondola. Now it's Santa Monica Aerial Rapid Transit. But Santa Monica kind of pushed it off and said, we'd really like if this was a bigger deal and if you like talk to Metro and got this going. So that was actually, it felt like sort of bad because they were sort of not interested, but they pushed us to Metro, and the Metro was interested because they heard like Santa Monica was interested, and Santa Monica kind of gave a good push. And then, Metro had a process, which was good. And it's actually helped now that sort of both of them are sort of interested. Is a lot better than like the one-on-one. So now we have not exactly leverage. We can't really play them off each other, but they are kind of a little bit, they feel safer knowing that there's someone else is interested. That's some of it. So now the process is really just moved to just Metro. So we're back to kind of that one-on-one. We're submitting our application like after the election. But one of the issues it's going to be after we submit the application is typically they have to or want to do a request for proposals, and they have to set it out for bidding. Essentially, they don't want to be, they want us to have competitors. Like they want to have the leverage, they want to have choices and who to go with now that we've brought this idea to them and we've shown them our idea. Our precious idea. And so there's some other these are the two actual major manufacturers of gondolas. So Metro wants to be on that side of the table with like multiple people on the other side of the table. And they can say, give us your best price. So we don't want to be in that situation. I'm not that concerned that there are really going to be other people with this really bidding hard on this crazy idea, but my consultants who are better at business than me apparently are. And so they're like, let's switch this up and start talking to Doppelmayr and Leitner Poma. And that puts us as the only person on the one side of the table, because for both of them, this is a really big project. It's still so early that it's not like real. There's not a request for proposals out there. And so the basic strategy we're sort of coming up with is picking, we kind of have to work with one of them. There's only these two, but at least there are two to fight for our business. But the real idea we're thinking is working with both of them. It's such a big project that we can kind of lock them both in, and we can lock them in now while the two of them are sort of fighting over us. And then we've essentially taken these three competitors and combined them, or really two competitors. And now when we get to the second phase of Metro and they go out for RFP, there's really these two suppliers, and they'll both be locked up with us, and we'll say, okay, go ahead and put it out for bids, and there'll be no one else who can actually bid on it because there's no one else in the world who can make gondolas. So anyway, that's sort of a practical world of example of like planning a little bit ahead for thinking how the things might change down the line and when you're going to lose your leverage. And maybe there's something you can do now while you still have some leverage that sort of builds up your future leverage. At DreamHost, I think our best leverage of getting good deals with data centers is that we were not afraid to move data centers. Like no one else likes to move thousands of servers in the middle of the night, and we didn't like doing it, but we would do it. And so that was their leverage, is that we would just walk away from these data centers that started to jack up the price on us and move to competitors. And I guess the way we got that leverage was setting up our systems in a way that kind of allowed it to be possible, and just being cheapskates inside. With this airline that we just bought, in Alaska, there were these two flight certificates that they owned, and when we were bidding on the bankruptcy, we wanted both of them, which, this is our savvy airline CEO's strategy coming through. And the seller was like, why do you need both? Like, we want to sell the other one off too. It's got some value. You only need one to operate. And at that point, we were kind of the only bidder. It was this near the end, and other people weren't as high. And so it looked like we were going to win. And so we kind of had some leverage there. And our CEO was like, we absolutely need both so that no one else can buy the other one and start competing with us and making it really hard for us to make any money. And the seller was like, okay, seems fair. It's not like they really had another offer at that time anyway. So we kind of had leverage there, but we use that leverage to sort of lock up future leverage. So now we are basically the only air carrier in Alaska that has a 121 certificate, regional air carrier. There's still Alaska Airlines. So anyway, those are some examples just to sort of give you that thought. Really negotiations, and whether it's for career, for salary, you just want to have multiple offers coming in so that you could literally walk away. And then, the other part of it is start high, which is if you're, whether it's a salary or whatever. I mean, there's two lines of, of thinking. You can basically just ask for exactly what you want, which is totally reasonable, and kind of like where it will end up. And then you can just stick to it and just don't counter and don't negotiate and just say, no, this is reasonable. This is what I want. I'm being honest with you. I'm not playing games. That is one way to do it, which is kind of how we would do it at DreamHost. And it's fine. But the more common way, and obviously it just sort of, works okay, is you've got to start high, because they're going to start low, or you got to meet somewhere in the middle, probably, hopefully closer to what you started with. But you really want to start like super high, like, 10 times what you're hoping for, that kind of thing. And then, it's hard to do just straight stick to it, because everybody wants to feel a little bit, at least, that they won somewhat in a negotiation, that they got some concessions, that they can go back to their stakeholders and say like, yeah, but they started at 100 million and we got them down. If it's just a really good price, I mean, you start off with a good price, they're still going to try and negotiate you for a little bit. You can really stick to it, and they know, but it's a lot easier if you just sort of say like, yes, I'm trying to sell this house for $150 million. And then when someone ends up paying $30 million for it, they feel like that's kind of reasonable. But that $150 million is just a made up number, but you start super high. Okay, last part of this before we get into breakouts is, in general, talking a little bit about partnerships. We didn't do a lot of partnerships at DreamHost. Partnerships are really just also known, I would say, as biz dev, business development, which is talking to other businesses and kind of aligning yourselves in a way where you're supposed to both win, and it's not really like a customer supplier relationship, or it's like a partnership, right? Makes sense. The thing with partnerships is, I think people see them, especially in early stage startups, as this like home run type of thing of like, we just got to get this partnership with Walmart, and boom, done. 100 million in sales, 50 million in sales. And, there's no silver bullets. It's usually a little, it's hard. If there's really a deal that you really think has like the chance of becoming a huge like company saver or company maker, it's going to be as much work as just a lot of singles, which is sort of regular business. I say biz dev is going for those home runs, which do come through, but very rarely. And regular business is just getting things done, selling to one customer, selling, getting a product upgrade, getting a little more branding out there, marketing, and getting little more traffic to the website and building it. And it's a single and a single and a single. And then you get a run after you got 4 singles, and then you get another single, and you get another run, and then it starts to build up. So I'm not a huge fan, at least in a startup stage, of a lot of work on like partnerships. And, this whole talk, I'm not a big fan of all these things, but they do work in certain cases. I feel like they're more for later stage companies or just later stage entrepreneurs. Like, you've had a few exits, you've got great relationships, you can call people and just make partnerships happen and deals happen. If you're trying to break in to an industry with your startup idea, you can make partnerships happen, but in general, it's like you want to be going out after partnership. You'll get inbound ideas and offers from biz dev and from other things, but usually that's like it's sort of like the leverage thing. Like, you want to be the one who's going to them and trying to get your deal done, not so much sitting there and letting people come to you with partnership offers and being like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we'll do that partnership. Yeah, we'll partner with you. Yeah, we'll partner with you. Because it's probably like you just want to be on the driver's seat, and it makes it a lot harder. It's easy for someone to sort of offer you a deal and you to take it, but in general, those are not going to be as effective and lucrative as one that you came up with yourself. So in general, as like biz dev, I don't know, in partnerships, I feel like they get sort of outsized attention. It's one of those like 19 ways in that traction book I talked about before to distribute. It's a channel for getting your business out there. I mean, I think it's exciting because it looks like it can be such a big hit, a home run, and it's like a little bit of work, make this partnership with Toyota, and boom, we're done. But it's a lot of fake there's a lot of fake partnerships, I guess I'd say. Anyway, see, there it is, biz dev. It's one of those things in that list, but it's just one of them. So don't get too enamored with it. But in general, it's kind of, in terms of actually like how to do partnerships, it's really just like sales, the same sort of advice on it's building relationships, it's slow, it's following up, it's, keeping track of a lot of irons in the fire. And it's eventually 3, 6, 12, 18 months later getting this deal done. But unlike a sales thing where you actually like, I sold something to them, now we have $100 million that we sold, or 5 million or 100,000 or whatever. We actually have this money coming in from a customer. It's like, now we have a partnership and we're going to go together and get a customer. So I don't know, but Brian Bogensberry is going to tell you why I'm completely wrong. And that's it. That's the little beginning talk for today. So let me get in here, end my recording for now.